8% Nation audience. I'm Cody Askins. I am joined by one of my favorite people in this industry, Mr. David Duford with Final Expense Agent Mentor. How are you, brother?
I'm good. How you doing today, Cody?
Good, man. Thank you so much for being on. For those that, dude, I don't know of anyone in our industry that doesn't know you, but just in case they don't, David Duford owns and runs Final Expense Agent Mentor and davidduford.com. He is out of Chattanooga, Tennessee. He's been in the business quite a while, like 12 years maybe.
2011. Close.
Okay. 8 years.
There you go.
Similar time frame. He's been in the business a long time. He knows his stuff. The dude puts out valuable content to help insurance agents almost every day, probably 3, 4, 5 times a week.
Yeah. 4 times pretty consistently.
And does an awesome job. And as soon as we were building this conference and promoting this event and having it at Nissan Stadium, I knew that Dave was one of the guys that we had to get involved and had to have there. He's been an influence in my life. He's someone I've learned from. He's someone that, the dude had me in his book. If you haven't got a copy of this, you've got to check it out, man. He's donating to help military. So you got to check it out. It's a cool book. He's giving back. It's a neat deal. So Dave is going to be a panelist speaker. So we're going to have a live Q&A at the event with a panel. Fortunately for us, Dave's going to be there answering your questions live from the stadium seats at Nissan Stadium. So Dave, why don't you give our audience, this growing 8% Nation audience, a little bit more background about you. You've been in business since 2011, and just a little backstory on who you are and how you got here.
So I guess I can start from the wee beginnings back in 2011. I failed out of my first business during the Great Recession. And like many people that probably watch this, never imagined going into the life insurance market. Can you imagine a less sexy profession, life insurance? Anyways, when you're desperate, you do crazy things, right? So I stumbled across the Final Expense opportunity. I liked it because it was, at my perspective at the time, a one-call close, generally good commission rates, and there wasn't a lot of technical apparatus. I didn't have to know Medicare or, what more difficult types of life insurance products. So I got started there, did okay, and failed. I actually failed out within my first year of the business by doing dumb things. And had to go back and work for somebody else. And but I look back and I'm grateful for it now because it was a teachable moment that A, you just have to do what you're supposed to do and stop trying to reinvent the wheel. And B, it allowed me to appreciate what some people think are the frustrations or the frustrating side of selling insurance, because the alternative is a lot worse. Trust me, working for somebody else, not having the career advancement potential that you can give yourself if you work hard. Is very hard when you work in the corporate world because you don't have access to that nearly as much as if you are responsible for your own outcomes. So I got back into Final Expense. I've been here ever since. I've been doing recruiting and training of agents since probably 2013, 2014. Operate a national agency. We help agents with Final Expense. We also do mortgage protection, just launched a new annuity sales training program. You can see the books behind me. One by Kool-Aid over there. Cody's in that book. And then the official guide to selling Final Expense is above my balding head. So I'm glad to be here, Cody. Thanks for having me.
Dude, you got it, man. I'm extremely excited to have you a part of this conference, to have you at this event. You mentioned something real quick. You mentioned that because I think a lot of agents can learn from this, is a real teachable moment. Like you said, you failed your first time jumping in the business due to doing dumb things.
Yeah.
What were those dumb things?
There's a couple of things. The first thing was tinkering with a system that already works. It's interesting. We live in a society, or we live in a business world in which there's technological advancements. Everybody's telling you got to market online. You got to market this way. You got to do the business that way. And what's unique about Final Expense and some other insurance products too, is that the system that's been proven to consistently work still works.
Yeah.
And the other thing, and this is important for agents too, it's that just because a system works doesn't mean you're going to eliminate the frustrations with it. I like to put it this way. There's an agent I know of, his name is Ben Bowman, and he put it this way. He said, basically, 3 out of 4 people are going to tell you to go to hell. And the irony is that that's great. If you can maintain a ratio where 3 out of 4 people that aren't going to be fantastic.
Right.
And so bottom line, you've got to embrace the reality of this business. You got to embrace the inherent aspects of it, good and bad, and commit yourself to it, and park your critical thinking brain aside and understand that if this system has so much success and has been proven to be successful for decades, certainly other people have probably tried to modify it and change it and fail too. This is why this is the standard to follow. So, I overcame that personality flaw, I guess, in this sense, I would call it, and learned to shut up the tinkering side and work on what actually works.
Is that like a natural thing? I think I can speak a lot to that, where you kind of want to only almost create your own way rather than using other people's ways. Is that kind of a lot of people are like that?
Yeah, no, I don't see. That's why I said it. It's funny because it's contextual, right? So I think a person who is creative is good. I'm not suggesting that people who are creative are going to fail at this business. It's just knowing when to be creative and under what circumstances. The final expense business is boring. It's not that complex. Direct mail works. You just buy leads and run them and follow a system and consistently do that. And that's what I got away from. I thought, well, there's other systems out there, or maybe I could modify the lead card this way, or, minimize my deadbeat appointments by saying this in the card that way. And maybe I got a little success, but it detracts ultimately from what works. And so you've got to know when to be creative and when to shut it off. And I tell agents this now, even I say, look, I understand your impetus to be creative and try this, thinking about trying a new thing, but you need to earn the right to be creative, meaning you've got to do this successfully and follow a system and be a good soldier for at least a year before you have any agency to change any of the system. At that point, go for it. You know what you're doing. But until then, you have no knowledge. And that's another thing. You don't even know what you don't know when you get started in this business. And it takes a certain level of humility to listen to somebody that you have to put trust into that's done this business. And a lot of people can't do that. They think they know better. They think they can one up the teacher. And it's a level of, I guess, maturity that some people don't have. And those are the ones that fail. And at that point, I had that to an extent, and thankfully to an extent overcame it overcame it and kept it under wraps a little bit better.
Completely. Is there anything else that there was maybe something that was dumb that didn't help you that kind of affected that other than just tinkering with the system?
As far as me failing out?
Yes, sir.
Not really. I mean, the only thing I could think of is that look, you've run business, you've run appointments.
Yeah.
I've run lots of appointments. You've dealt with people, I'm sure, who drive you nuts, right? Who waste your time, who don't buy from you. You experience the same frustrations that I have, right?
Right.
And so is everybody else. We all experience the same thing. And what I found, it's not our competition, if there is any, really. I don't think there's really competition in this business. It's us. It's what goes on between our head or between our ears that ultimately determines our success or failure. It's managing that frustration that the ones who succeed in this business, if they can overcome that inner demon, I guess you could say, they'll get a level of sustainable success. But it's very difficult, and it's not easy to see when you're starting off in this business. And that's something that I let get the best of me, because then it becomes a domino effect that affects your willingness to door knock. You don't want to do it as much. You don't want to call as much. And if you don't put the activity in, then nothing's going to happen. Completely.
That makes me think of a lot of agents that something works, really, really well. And they have an incredible week. They just absolutely dominate that week. And then they want to recreate the will. They want to change everything up. They want to try something else. Like you said, they want to, maybe the creative genius kicks in. When a lot of times the system is the system. The system works, and like we talk about, and the purpose of the conference, 8% Nation, 92% of insurance agents fail. Everyone wants to succeed. Everyone wants to create wealth. Everyone wants to be like you. Everyone wants certain things, but it's not always that easy. And so I'm excited for them to be able to hang out with people like you, with people like me, with people like Grant Cardone, Ray Lewis, and other individuals in this industry that are what I like to call influencers, insurance influencers. Somebody told my wife that recently. She said, "Yeah, I see all your guys' videos. You must be like insurance influencers." Well, I'm like, I guess so. So is there anything else that you want to share before I jump into the conference and ask you a few questions? Is there anything you want to share? Because we've got some agents watching, and that we'll watch later on our channels and on our Facebook, that you would like to be able to express to a new or struggling insurance agent?
So the first thing is you got to make sure that you believe in what you sell. That's the first thing. A lot of people don't believe in what they sell. If you don't believe in whatever product it is that you're selling, final expense or otherwise, and you don't have a passion for it, you don't have to be in love with it. Sometimes love comes later, but you got to believe what it is good and it helps people, and you like the market you're working in. If you don't have that, it's just a slow road to demise. So you got to find something that, you feel excited about, and if you're not always excited, at least feel good about doing, and it's a good thing. Second of all, you need to work with an organization that aligns with your values, that you like your upline, that delivers on what it is that you need, and services you when you need it. And thirdly, in line with that, you need to have a sales and marketing system. This business is boring. I'm telling you, it's boring. You don't have to go out there and have some magical company. There's not some magical lead system that you don't know about, that a few people in the ivory tower does, that you can't have access to, and all this stuff. There's simple systems out there. And that's the thing, is the fundamentals are what matter in this business. You need leads on a consistent basis, and you need to hit your presentations on a consistent basis to whatever extent that you need for your income goals. So part of that is also building a strategy. Lastly, once you've established all this stuff, execute. Don't go changing the system a month later. This goes back to our conversation earlier. Don't reinvent the wheel. Trust and believe. It's so funny how a lot of this process of being in business is almost a faith-based argument. I use the word have faith, have trust in the system. And it's weird. It comes out like that. And I don't intend it to be, but there's a lot of that. You can't control everything. There's certain things you can control. The serenity prayer, there you go. And there's certain things you can't. And you got to know the difference between what you can and you can't. And in this business, it's all about controlling your sits. It's all about controlling your presentations and being maniacal about achieving that on a consistent weekly, daily basis. Because if you do, the law of large numbers applies, and you'll begin to get appointments consistently and sales consistently. And sure, you have ups and downs. We all do. But life is a lot better when you're doing that. So long story short, just do what you're told. Go out there, work, see the people. Don't think, execute.
Completely. For those just joining us, David Duford, you guys have heard of him. You've seen him probably. Final Expense Agent Mentor. He's all over YouTube. He's got like 800 videos. He's got like 4,100 YouTube subscribers. Super well known in the insurance space. Before we jump into a question that I know you'll like because you've written 2 books, is you mentioned numbers. You talk about sits. I always talk about, sitting with 10 people. What are kind of what's your philosophy on numbers that an agent can make a goal every week?
Yeah. So I think I read a book behind me. It's called I don't know what it's called, but it's by a guy named Tony Gordon. If you look it up, he's a producer in the UK, and he looks at numbers on a 15 appointment basis. And I've heard a lot of people say the magic 15. Yeah. A guy I learned final expense from early on. Basically, guy's name's Travis Tubbs. His goal is to set 15 appointments a week as well, and that's how he trained all his agents to do as well. So the 15 number is kind of like a really good benchmark. I think it allows for enough numbers to come into play to where averages can start playing out. Ultimately, it just depends on what your goals are, right? I mean, look, if you track your numbers and you find that every 10 appointments, you make 5 sales and you need 20 leads to get it. And once you account for the expense of your leads and the profit remaining, and if that satisfies your income goals, then that's fine. I'm not so, rigid on a particular number. It comes down to the ratios. It comes down to conversions. It comes down to your numbers. But I think 15 is a good number to strive for a full-time agent. Now, we're talking 3 appointments a day, right?
Right.
Anybody can do that. Door knocking. You start at 9 o'clock in the morning. You should be able to hit 3 before dinner time. Completely. 5 days a week. And that's not that hard. You need the leads to do it. You need obviously the effort to play it. But I think that to me is the big number. 15 is a good number for a full-time guy. But again, like you say, 10 might be 10, it just comes down to what you need.
Thinking like, because something I've always preached too, and I think we're actually saying the exact same thing, is set 15, sit with 10, sell,
Yeah, exactly. Basically, it just comes down to a number that is challenging but achievable, and you can see the system work on paper and then executing. It's if you need 10 appointments and 1 out of 3 is going to no-show, you need to set 15, like you said.
Right.
And if you get in the 3 out of 4 of your leads, well, then you need 20 leads. And so you can start working backwards, and then you'll see a pattern eventually. And then it will motivate you as to what you need to hit on a daily basis, almost like an assembly line. It's almost like manufacturing. You need to put so much inputs in, so many door knocks before you get the output, which is a closed deal.
I've always heard you say that. And I love the way you put it that way. And there's a lot of people in our industry that would say, dude, 15 isn't enough. Well, 92% of agents fail because they don't hit 15. So,
I find, Cody, I'll mention this too. I think most of you guys, all the agents out there listening, are probably pretty good in front of their clients. I mean, most people don't fail out of this business because they suck at selling.
Right.
It's just they're bad at getting in front of people. They don't have enough people to talk to. Like, that's the reason most people fail out, is they'll see 5 people a week. And they're frustrated because, like, man, I only made 2 sales this week, but I got in front of 5. How many people get in front of, Dave? 5. Well, that's a pretty good conversion ratio. Why don't you just triple your activity? I mean, it's the great thing about it. It is a problem that can be solved, And so I think, and I've always felt this way. Look, I'm big on training. I think it's important to have a process and selling and have a coaching and training and all that stuff. But I think that takes a back seat to getting the activity in. It's a numbers business first. You've got to put the impact with your prospects. And once you hit the numbers, you could be mediocre at selling and doing great. But most people don't even hit the numbers. That's why I make an obsessive plea to agents. You got to hit numbers if you want to be anything in this business, because that's what it comes down to first and foremost. 100%. Then the sales training comes to play, and we can refine that.
Yeah, well, and this, they're going to their skill as a salesperson will only get better the more activity they do. So yeah, exactly. The more appointments you do, you get better. This is a business where you learn by doing, and it's hard for people who are paralyzed by analysis to get that. But you have to get out there and execute. You have to, as the old saying goes, ready, fire, and aim. Yeah. And there's no way around that. You've got to go out there, execute, and trust. There it is again. Have faith, trust in the process. You'll get better. And you may screw up a few, but that's your tuition you're paying. And you'll learn your lesson and you'll get better. Completely true. For those just joining us, this is David Duford, owner of Final Expense Agent Mentor and DavidDuford.com. He's been in the business for a long time. Tons of training videos from Chattanooga. He's going to be on our speaker panel answering your questions at Nissan Stadium. Let's jump into one thing that I know is important to you, which is self-improvement. And really, you talked about personal brand. Well, you wouldn't have the personal brand you have today if you hadn't put into developing you in self-improvement, personal development, books, audiobooks, learning, mentors, which I know a lot of people struggle with, especially me. I kind of know your thought on it because you got 2 books that you've written right behind you. What's your honest opinion for those wondering, hey, is it really important?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. I think, and this is something I've always been a reader to a certain extent, but I've been undisciplined. I'd have periods of time where I'd read and then stop. What I've done this year, I think, has been very impactful. Is I've made it a mission of mine to read 1 book a week. Sometimes they're shorter books, sometimes they're longer books, and to read from a variety of sources, not just sales or self-improvement, but also autobiographies are really good. And biographies and that kind of thing. Tony Robbins, and this is something that stuck with me that he said once, as far as self-improvement goes, is you want to read self-improvement books, of course, how to get better at selling, industry specific stuff as well, like a lot of the books that I've talked about in my videos. But you also want to read autobiographies. I just got done reading Ben Franklin's autobiography. What a great book, man. Guy is just an excellent book, because what you find in an autobiography is a humanity behind these legendary figures. And you realize that people are people, and you kind of get a little look into their lives as far as what made them different and how they're successful, but you see that they're human too.
Yeah.
And then you can make more of a connection with them. You realize that perhaps what they did is achievable in your own life. So I think it's important to intermix autobiographies. Anything is good, especially successful people.
Right.
People have had ups and downs in life is good. But in anything that you enjoy. So yeah, I mean, just read. And I find that people will be, people take in information differently. Like some people are more audio visual, right? Others are more when they read information, it makes an impact. I would say expose yourself to all of those things. For me personally, I do tons of videos, and while videos have an impact on me, I'm more of the reading type. If I read it, it has a much more profound impact on me. So if I'm looking to expand my mind and open my mind to self-improvement, I read. Again, that's my focus. Videos and audio and that kind of thing kind of take a second seat.
That's cool. And that's cool that you put it kind of in a different way too. I literally just read an article earlier today, and I've heard it for years. I actually did one of our videos today was about this exact subject. Most people don't realize that CEOs and executives in general read about a book a week, exactly what your goal is right now and what you're doing, where the average business person reads maybe a couple a year. And so if you think about it, I gave a Kobe Bryant illustration. When he was 10, he played in a summer league. He scored 0 points the entire summer. And then by age 12, he was the best in the state because he simply put in more time than others. He was putting in 2 or 3 hours a day, where his friends were putting in an hour or 2 a week. Simply kind of very, 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 very similar to reading and developing self-improvement and doing those things.
Mozart would, when Mozart would practice on the piano, when he was doing scales or arpeggios, he would have a list of like one side of the piano, he'd have like coins, right? And then on the other side, he'd have nothing. And he would go through the process of practicing whatever the scales or whatever. And if he screwed up, or if he did it successfully, he'd move one coin over. And at the moment he screwed up, he'd move all the coins back over. And he would not stop until he moved all the coins or whatever apparatus he was using to the other side.
Wow.
It was just this pig-headed discipline and determination with being consistent and executing perfectly. And yeah, I mean, that's what's great about insurance too, is that insurance, like you said, you can make up for a lack of talent or experience with hard work. I mean, that's what really attracted me to this business too, is that I knew I could work hard. I had run a personal training business prior. I was already self-motivated. Like, that didn't deter me. It inspired me, because it's like the sky's the limit. When you're in the driver's seat, man, you can accomplish anything. All you just need is the time to see it through, and the consistency, and again, that's easier said than done. I think that's kind of the moral of the story, talking about success in insurance business. A lot of it comes down to what's up here, not the leads or the products you're selling.
Completely. That's so difficult to think about and overcome too as a salesperson. It's so true. What do you expect? And I know you don't know a ton yet, but about this specifically, but what do you expect for not only agents to learn at this event and at this conference by being at an insurance wealth conference in general? How can that help them? And also, what can they expect from you as a live panelist on the stage in front of 1,000 agents at Nissan Stadium?
Oh boy, no pressure here. Best performance, obviously, on stage, number one.
Academy Award.
I don't know. I think what you can expect from me is humility. I've always been real on camera, and I'm the same as I am here as I am on talking to my agents. And I like talking about this journey or this path that we take, and the many travails and curves that it takes. And I like being straightforward. It's a tough business, but everybody who's on stage, whether they sell insurance or not, has gone through the same similar path and have come out extremely successful. And it's very important to listen to their stories, because you'll find more often than not, there's more similarities than there are differences. Very rarely do the people who succeed in life have everything in their favor to begin with. They didn't have access to money. They weren't rich to begin with. They had to fight hard for where they're at. And it's inspiring for those people who started from very little, who are with very little, to see what is possible. The other thing I think that's good about conferences, and this is kind of less talked about, speakers are great. You'll learn good technical information, motivational information, but what's really good and what you'll really get a lot of information from is the camaraderie between the attendees. A lot of people, I've heard this a lot. I had this happen on a conference I went a couple of years ago. You learn a lot from just interacting with people and mixers and just meeting different agents and befriending, seeing what they're doing, what's working, so you're going to get a lot of just value from that. Sometimes it's more than what the presenters do. Again, this is what people say. So I think there's a multifaceted reason to go to this conference. One, to learn from, influencers, like you said, and top people in different industries and insurance backgrounds. And two, just to meet with your fellow peers who are fighting tooth and nail to see the people just like you and share stories of success and ways to improve.
Exactly, buddy. Well, dude, we are excited to have you a part of this event. Thank you for doing this as well, man. As you guys know, I don't know if I say it enough, I'm a huge fan of this guy. He's one of the coolest dudes in our industry. He does a lot for our industry. And so we're excited to have you a part of the event. We're excited to have you on the stage, a 24-foot wide stage on Nissan, on the field, looking up at the seats. David Duford, Final Expense Agent Mentor, he's going to be coming to Nashville in October for 8% Nation to be a live panel speaker answering your questions live from stage. Dave, thank you again for being on, buddy. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks, Cody. Anytime.
All right. And everyone else that's going to be at this event, or if you don't have your seat and you want to meet Dave at the event, you want to hang out with him at the party, you want to be able to meet him backstage, you want to get a picture with him, whatever, you've got to go to 8percentnation.com to grab your seat, to be there, to come learn the mindset, the mission, and the moves to produce millions. We're excited to see you there, Dave. Thanks again for being on, buddy.
Bring your books. I'll sign them.
Let's do it. There you go, man. Bring the books and Dave will sign them. That is cool. You got to do that. Again, he's got a couple books that you may want to check out, man, right behind him. I was fortunate enough to be in one. So what a cool dude. What a cool dude. So
there you go.
Thanks again, buddy. We'll see you at Nissan in Nashville, brother.
See ya. See you soon.